groups and cells in Africa, in Asia, attempts in North America by Algerians. So there's much more to be learned than simply this is bin Laden linked, if in fact it is.
And bin Laden himself always described as a financier and inspiration, perhaps, but no particular mastermind. He's not working the details of these things out. At least that's what we hear.
That's what we hear. I mean, in all of the trials and investigations in bin Laden-linked terrorist incidents in the last 5 years, that's the impression that one gets about him specifically. Although I think it's interesting that some of those who were very close to him and who were named in the indictment in New York for the embassy bombings in Africa are right below him. And in fact, there has been some evidence that his right-hand man was plotting the possible terrorist attacks that were planned for right around the Millennium Summit in New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, 1999 and 2000.
And then, Mike, there are these videotapes that were being circulated on which in which bin Laden was boasting about the fact after the Cole attack on the destroyer Cole, he was boasting on videotape about how he was going to bring down the United States. I mean, yes, this may not be courtroom evidence, but certainly we would call this a prime suspect.
I think that investigators would consider him or those linked to him a prime suspect from the very moment that these things happened, and now by the end of this day, if there is some little evidence emerging, it may accumulate over the next days and weeks. I would imagine that our intelligence analysts will go back to all sorts of communications and intercepts over recent weeks and perhaps further back to see whether they might have actually had more evidence that something like this was going on. I think you know, Neil, that the FBI and the CIA were aware that some plot was going on before the 1998 bombings of American embassies in Africa.
Yeah.
They just couldn't get to who it was. And the leaders of the intelligence community today have said that they had no warning of this, but it's possible that there is some warning in the mountains of intelligence that the United States collects every day.
Now, something else seems to be going on. CNN tonight had pictures of explosions in Kabul, on the outskirts of Kabul, either by missiles or by bombs, or we don't know what. Apparently there's a civil war. Incidentally, by the way, the U.S. administration says these were not from ours. We have not yet fired anything at them. But there is something else going on. There's a civil war going on in Afghanistan in which bin Laden appears to be playing a part. There's Taliban Supreme Leader, the Mullah Muhammad Omar, seldom seen anywhere, so on and so forth, and it appears that he's been fighting against Ahmad Shah Massoud, who is the anti-Taliban guerrilla leader, who was wounded and perhaps killed in a suicide bombing by two people organized by Osama bin Laden, is believed. And
just this week, Dan, I think,
just a couple of days ago.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So that if you are looking for what the president said he's looking for, not only who done it, but who helped, we're beginning to see the link between Osama bin Laden and the Taliban.
Mike Schuster, thanks very much.
You're welcome, Neil.
Okay. Our number is 800-989-8255. What changed today? Bill joins us on the line from Sacramento in California.
Hi.
Hi.
I guess your caller said it best when he said he feels like a piece of him is missing. I'm a former New Yorker. I'm 35 years old, and I don't know, when you look south from my apartment building on 10th Street, you see the Twin Towers, and I feel like it's as if I would look down at my feet and not see them. I mean, they're just a symbol, you know, living in New York and being a New Yorker, of just the grandeur of the city and you know, the beauty of that city, and for them to be gone is just, it's like an amputation. And I hear everybody talking about, you know, bin Laden, and I think what's best to worry about is terrorism in general. I mean, the people who perpetrated the crime actually are down with the plane. They might not have been masterminds, but they're already dead. And I think that we need to take a stance on terrorism itself. You know, if it's not a bin Laden, it's a Gaddafi or a Hussein. And I think we need to take a stance and figure out how we're going to fight terrorism in all its forms and protect our country.
As you suggest, terrorism does not involve solely Osama bin Laden alone, and nor does it involve the Middle East alone. And there are many other parts of the world that suffer from these kinds of problems.
Right, and we jumped to conclusion in Oklahoma City, and it actually ended up being, right-wing extremists in our own country. And, so I would, I mean, obviously it's in and outside of this country as well. But it's just, I mean, my whole sense of safety, and I have a brand new 7-month-old daughter, and, you think you can walk through the streets of New York and you worry about maybe, crime or, possibly you always hear about people being mugged, but, this just shakes you to your core. And being a former New Yorker, I don't know if it's affected me more. I'm married to a Californian, and, my wife has been affected by this, but she hasn't actually been, kind of on the verge of tears all day like myself. A lot of my family in New York have been. Interesting
to hear you refer to your apartment on 10th Street in the present tense and your view down towards the World Trade Center in the present tense.
It's in my heart.
Thanks, Bill, very much.
Thank you.
Have as good a night as you can. Earlier this evening, Mayor Rudolph Giuliani of the city of New York held a news conference. Let's hear a little bit of what the mayor had to say.
Is there still hope that there are people who are still alive and well?
Yes, there's hope. There's hope that there are people that are still alive.
How is the rescue effort hampered by the darkness? What do you do?
We moved a lot of lights in so that the area is being lit now, so that I don't think the rescue effort is going to be hampered by the darkness. The rescue effort is hampered by the fact that there's still fire there. There are still unsound structures, and it's still dangerous, although the rescue effort is now taking place. But if you're asking me, is it hampered? It's hampered because of the conditions, not because of the nighttime.
New York Mayor Rudolph Giuliani speaking at a news conference at City Hall in New York earlier this evening. Richard Hake, a reporter for WNYC, was there, and he now joins us from New York. Richard, are you there?
Yes, Neil, I'm here.
Did